Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 13, Little Cicada. Without looking at Liege Unhung, Xiao Qi adjusted the lid of the teacup slowly with his fingers as he said, "Don't make a fuss." Liege Unhung sat back in his chair, scared out of his wits. He heard the Empress Dowager ask, "His Majesty the Emperor is here and the patrol is strict. How could a person drown for no reason?" Ji Lei said, replying to Your Majesty, this humble subject has already sent someone to take the corpse to await the coroner's examination. We will know the details soon. What do you mean? Being chronically sick had laden Emperor Xian's brows with an aura of gloom. He continued, "Don't tell me there is something suspicious about his death." Ji Lei said, "Your Majesty, he was bruised all over when we fished him out of the water. It's clear that he had received a beating. Although Xiao Fusui was a court eunuch of the palace, he didn't hold any important post in any of the 24 yamen, he was merely one of His Majesty's personal eunuch. If he was tortured before he died, then I'm afraid the murderer might be plotting something major." Supporting himself on the table, Emperor Xian stood up and said coldly, "I have only just stepped out of the palace and already there are people who can't wait." "Your Majesty." Hai Lianji stepped out and kneeled to say, "The Jin Yue and the 8 great training divisions are on rotation duty with one another today to conduct patrols. If the murderer was really plotting something, how would he have dared to do such a sloppy work of it?" Xiao Fusui usually took on the job of leaving the palace to make purchases. It's not impossible for him to make personal enemies out of others elsewhere. Secretariat Elder Hua Saiqian, who had been sitting upright without moving, said, "Renchi, you can't put it that way. A man who dares to strike before His Majesty clearly has no regard for His Majesty and all the officials present. Who among the ordinary commoners outside the palace would be brave enough to do something like this?" Xiao Qi sat still as his mind worked frantically. At the third quarter of the hour of Wu, Chen Yang had dragged Xiao Fusui into the woods. In just an hour, the eunuchs serving the dishes at the start of the banquet and the 8 great training divisions taking over the patrol would pass by. All those present today were important figures. No one would remember everyone who left their seats to change attire, drink tea, or make a trip to the latrine. What's more, the accompanying soldiers and eunuchs all had the right to move around the garden, too. Someone only needed to give Xiao Fusui a light kick in that span of an hour time and he would have drowned in the pond. Looking at the situation now, the thorny issue was not explaining how the bruises on Xiao Fusui's body came about. Instead, it was that Ji Lei had changed the course of investigation and turned this murder case into a suspect case for rebellion. Xiao Qi tapped his fingertips on the lid. This fire must never burn its way to Prince Chu. The emperor was gravely ill now and the imperial physician was at his wits' end. No one could even predict the day of his demise. However, Emperor Xian had no heirs. Once the unexpected happened, Liege Unhung would be the next one in line to the throne. What happened today was all because he did not think things through. It was too brazen for Liege Unhung to leave his seat. This was something he could not simply dismiss with a perfunctory excuse. The Xiao clan was already treading on thin ice. If they were to be suspected of being implicated in the fight for the imperial throne again, then the 120,000 military forces of Liege would be the executioner blade on Xiao Jiming's neck. This matter had come bearing down on him too fast, it was already staring at him right in the face. He could not let it continue burning. Xiao Qi suddenly flung down the teacup, shattering it. The clear, crisp sound of clatter rang out, attracting the sidelong glances of everyone at the banquet. Liege Unhung looked at him in apprehension and said, "See Ian." Xiao Qi stood up and strode swiftly towards the emperor. He kneeled and said in a clear voice, "Your Majesty. This humble subject dare not hide this from you. I was the one who ordered my men to beat him up." Emperor Xian stared at him and asked, "He was a court eunuch. What grudge did he have with you that you would be so ruthless to him?" Ji Lei also looked askance at him and said, "Your Excellency Xiao, this matter is one of grave importance. You mustn't take the blame for someone else because of some personal relationship. It's no big deal, actually." Xiao Qiye said frivolously. "Besides, this humble subject doesn't think it's a crime. So, what if I beat an insignificant and lowly eunuch to death? I'm a second-ranked viceroy of the Imperial army. Don't tell me I still have to put up with this condescending dog of a slave." For the second young master to be this furious, Hua Saiqian said, "I'm afraid it's not just any typical grudge. It's just that Xiao Fusui normally had no dealings with you. So, why are you this furious?" "Secretariat elder doesn't know it, but," Xiao Qiye said, "when I rode my horse to the military drill ground a few months ago, this dog sedan blocked my way. He acted like he was someone really important. If he had not lifted the curtain, I would have thought him to be Pen Gong Gong. I rebuked him with a few words and he mouthed off at me. I'm a real man, and yet I was humiliated by a wretched castrated eunuch right there on the middle of the street. If it had been someone else, I doubt they would have been able to swallow this humiliation either." Pan Rugui was still attending on the emperor at the outer side. The entire banquet of attendees all wiped their sweat for Xiao Qiye when they heard him say castrated. As Emperor Xian turned it over in his mind, the Empress Dowager said, "Even so, killing at the slightest provocation is not what a gentleman should do." Their words seemed to hit Pan Rugui's sore point. The gray-haired man kneeled with tears in his eyes and said, "Slaves like us are all lowly creatures. How could we be compared to the second young master Xiao? Her Majesty is already showing us favor with her compassion." Xiao Fusui had been spoiled so rotten that he didn't know how to observe the proper decorum when encountering military officials of the court. Even with the second young master Xiao's admonishment, he remained unrepentant. "This is all this slave's fault for not being diligent in my teachings of this child." He spoke in such a conciliatory and accommodating way. Yet, the law stipulated that eunuchs had to dismount and step back to kneel and kowtow in greeting whenever they saw a minister or major court official. The Empress Dowager was a staunch Buddhist, so she was displeased with the taking of lives. As such, she said to Emperor Xian, "There has been a saying since time immemorial that all men are equal in the eyes of the law. Xiao Qiye is so violent and wild. By all sentiment and reason, we can't let him off too lightly. Besides, the Xiao clan are all loyal and upright men. The Prince of Liege sent his son into the Chu capital be raised close to your Majesty. If we indulge him to the extent that he thinks so highly of himself, then I'm afraid that we would have let down the Prince of Liege who has entrusted him to us." Ji Lei was indignant. He was unwilling to let the matter go this easily, so he said, "The second young master Xiao has always been on friendly terms with Prince Chu. Now that he has done such a thing, His Highness, this humble subject still has something to say. I might be the one who beat him up, but I didn't kill him. Your Majesty, this humble subject originally had the intent to kill him to vent my fury. But when His Highness Prince Chu learned of this matter, he persuaded me against it. This humble subject was the one who ordered the guards today to drag him over and give him a thrashing secretly. Who would expect His Highness Prince Chu to get an inkling of what was happening midway and leave his seat to save Xiao Fusui's life? With His Highness giving counsel at the side, this humble subject would not dare to make His Highness lose face, no matter how bold this humble subject may be. So, this humble subject let Xiao Fusui off. As for how he drowned, this humble servant finds it strange too. Who would want to vent my hatred on my behalf and do such an ill-advised thing? Your Excellency Ji," Xiao Qiye turned to Ji Lei, his eyes faintly gleaming with delight. The Jinyue are usually meticulous and impeccable in their work. Today, he was lying by the side of the road. Yet he could still dodge the patrol squads and fall into the pond. Perhaps he was the one himself who could not tell the direction with his head covered and rolled down. Hai Lianji said, "That's true. Such a big man fell into the pond, and the Jin Jiu never realized it even though they were coming and going on patrol. If assassins were to infiltrate Zechuan today, the Jin Jiu probably wouldn't even notice it either. How would Jilei dare to muddy the water further? He kowtowed in a panic several times and said, "Your Majesty. The Jin Jiu can't do anything about it either. The Jin Jiu rotate with the 8th Great Training Division today to conduct patrols, so we have to organize the manpower carefully when relieving each squad. We wouldn't dare to neglect even the tiniest detail." The seal-holding commander-in-chief of the 8 Great Training Divisions, Shiguan, kneeled as well and said, "That's indeed the rule. The 8 Great Training Divisions do not dare to make light of it either. The rotation of the patrol follows a fixed schedule. It's not impossible for someone to memorize it and seize the chance to kill Xiao Fusui. This is a personal feud between a court official and eunuch. It should be handed over to someone to investigate exactly how many people have a grudge against the Xiao Fusui. Investigate." Emperor Xian laughed scornfully and suddenly threw the teacup at Gu Zian. He said in a towering rage, "Someone died right under your noses. Instead of self-reflecting, you just want to shirk responsibility. To think I actually put my safety in all your hands. You." Emperor Xian's voice went hoarse as he covered his mouth and started coughing again. He was so enraged that he had to support himself with the table before he toppled over backward. "Your Majesty." The imperial concubines around him let out shrill cries of alarm. The banquet was thrown into complete chaos. "Summon the imperial physician, quickly." The Empress Dowager held on to someone for support and said in reproach. ******. Liege Unhung looked as if he had seen his own mother when he saw Xiao Qiya again. He said, "My dear friend. You scared me just now." Xiao Qiya said, "I have been kneeling for so long that I'm starving now. Bring me some snacks." Liege Unhung waved his hand to motion for someone to hurry and get the snacks. He stood with Xiao Qiya at the base of the long veranda in Zechuan and looked at those bright lights in the palace hall. "If His Majesty regains consciousness, he will summon you." Liege Unhung said, "How did that Xiao Fusui die? I'm really down on my luck." Xiao Qiya ate his snacks with herbal tea. He found it hard to answer the question. Pan Rugui had always favored Xiao Fusui. If someone had deliberately wanted to take Xiao Fusui's life, how could his timing coincide so perfectly with Li Jianheng's beating of him? If it wasn't a deliberate attempt to kill Xiao Fusui, then could it be a sudden decision? Yet, it would have been far more advantageous to untie him than to kill him. The thing was that Pan Rugui and Jilei reacted way too swiftly. Since the man was already dead, they might as well make full use of him. If they could frame it on Prince Chu, they would be killing two birds with one stone. "Has His Majesty summoned anyone to his chamber recently to spend the night?" Xiao Qiya asked offhandedly. "Yeah." Liege Unhung answered. "The one he favors the most lately is the lady of the Wei clan. The Empress Dowager likes her, too." Xiao Qiya looked thoughtful. It was already dark by now, but no one dared to leave. All of them stood in small groups on the veranda and waited for Emperor Xian to regain consciousness. Shiguan left the garden midway. When he returned, he received the Empress Dowager's orders and headed into the room to wait. After another hour, Xiao Qiya suddenly saw the 8 Great Training Division guards leading in an errand runner, who was dressed in clean cotton clothing, from the side gate. "Who is that?" Xiao Qiya asked. Liege Unhung craned his neck and said, "An errand runner. There aren't many errand runners in Zechuan. But what are they bringing an errand runner here for?" With the help of the dim light from the lantern, a sharp-eyed Xiao Qiya saw that the errand runner had an ugly appearance with burn scars. He did not know why, but his heart suddenly leaped as an ominous speculation took hold in his mind and lingered there. "An errand runner of Zechuan," Xiao Qiya said. "Zechuan is a noble ground used to receive the emperor. It is a requirement for all those who wait upon him to look refined. Where would such a person come from?" After a while, Pan Rugui strode out of the door and shouted, "Summon the 8th son of the Shen clan over for an audience with the emperor. Do it quickly." An uproar broke out amidst the throng of officials. The sound of discussion rose in multitudes. There had not been a final judgment on whether Shen Wei had been guilty of treason after his death, but the name of Shen Wei had already spread across the country. The wounds of Zongbo had yet to heal and the blame for the defeat of the troops still existed. The fact that the remaining member of the Shen clan had undeservingly got to keep his life had already roused resentment at the frontiers. So, why was he still permitted to come out now? What's going on? A stunned Liege Unhung said. Don't tell me they discovered something? See Ian, there's enmity between you and him. Both of you see red whenever you two meet. For the sake of the Xiao clan's face, they shouldn't have let him out. Xiao Qiye said nothing. He merely shifted his gaze to the entrance and stared at it closely. In less than half an hour, the guard at the lead strode in. A man followed not far behind him. After 5 years, this man's hair had grown long. It hung behind him, secured with a crude wooden hairpin. He did not wear a crown. His old wide-sleeved robe sheltered his wrists from view, while the rest that extended out of those sleeves were as fair and lustrous as that of white porcelain. The lantern obstructed Xiao Qiye's sight. When the man walked out, the teacup in Li Jianheng's hand tumbled off. Li Jianheng muttered aloud distractedly. You never told me that this is how he looks like. Xiao Qiye's thumb crooked slightly. Shen Zechuan passed through the front of the veranda. At the very instant both of them crossed paths, Xiao Qiye looked at this man with coldness and detachment. Right on that split second, he locked gazes with a pair of eyes that held deep memories. These eyes were narrow and long, with the ends raised and curved into thin arches. Divine light shone in them. Even under the dim light of the lantern, those eyes still looked as if they were hiding the remnant of stars within them. In this rush of a moment, Shen Zechuan seemed to let out a hint of a smile at Xiao Qiye. But it was so faint that there were no traces of it left behind after Shen Zechuan brushed past him, much like the wind of the night, thin and cold. End chapter. Notes. 1. The 24 Yamen was an institution of eunuchs serving the emperor and his household in the Ming dynasty. It consisted of the 12 directorates, 4 offices, and 8 services. These are collectively referred to as the 24 Yamen. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 14, Praying Mantis. Shen Zechuan followed the man inside and kneeled outside the hanging screen. Emperor Xian leaned back partially against the head of the bed while the Empress Dowager sat by the side of the bed. With both hands holding the bowl of medicinal decoction, Pan Rugui retreated a little to reveal Shen Zechuan's figure. Emperor Xian made an effort to gather himself and said, "The patrol squad of the 8 Great Training Division said that they saw your errand runner appear at the side of the pond. Zhen is asking you, what is he doing there?" Shen Zechuan said, replying to His Majesty, "Uncle Gui was waiting for Fu Gongong from the palace." "On whose orders?" Shen Zechuan paused, then he kowtowed as he said, "It was the sinful subject's orders." Emperor Xian let out a few coughs and said, "You are being imprisoned in the Temple of Penitence. Every month, the palace will allocate and deliver food and clothing to you. What connections did you have with Xiao Fusui?" His Majesty showed concern and allowed this sinful subject to self-reflect at the Temple of Penitence. "Not only did His Majesty bestow kindness upon me, but even grant me food. This sinful subject recently came down with a cold. Coupled with my old ailment, it became increasingly harder for me to get up every day." Shen Zechuan looked sorrowful at this point. "Although the palace delivers my meals, they don't send medicine. Uncle Gui has been on duty in the Temple of Penitence for a long time." Taking pity on this sinful subject, he asked Fu Gongong, who sometimes left the palace to procure goods, for some medicine from the palace on behalf of this sinful subject. And that's how this sinful subject came to entrust Uncle Gui again, this time to beseech Fu Gongong to buy some blessing oil lamps for me. You have no family? The Empress Dowager asked. Why do you need oil lamps to pray for blessings? This sinful subject is aware of my heinous sins, so I've been praying by the lamp in the temple day and night for His Majesty and Her Majesty. At the same time, I've also been chanting sutras all day for the loyal martyrs who lost their lives at the Battle of Zongbo's Hashi. Shen Zechuan said devoutly. He continued, having planted some vegetables on the temple's grounds, this sinful subject entrusted Uncle Gubby to sell them for some money at the morning market. The illness of this sinful subject is already in such a state. Instead of using the money to buy medicine, I might as well get some blessing oil lamps. The Empress Dowager gave a long sigh. Although you are guilty of sin, it is not unpardonable. Emperor Xian wearily closed his eyes and said, Xiao Fusui is now dead. Do you know anyone who has a dispute with him? Shen Zechuan shook his head and said softly, although this sinful subject might be bold enough to beseech Fu Gongong's assistance to buy lamps, I have never seen Fu Gongong before or exchanged letters with him. What about you? Emperor Xian motioned to Ji Gang. Tell Zhen. Has he mentioned anything to you? Ji Gang did not dare to look at the emperor directly in the face. Like any other ordinary errand runner, he answered with diffidence and fear. Replying to Your Majesty, whenever Fu Gongong left the palace, it was all for purchasing errands. With such a busy schedule, he would usually send those serving under him to meet this humble one. On hearing this, Emperor Xian cast a self-mocking glance at Pan Rugui, who stood as still as a wooden statue. Ji Gang went on to say, but there was a time when this humble servant greeted Fu Gongong before his sedan and heard him mention something to his attendants about His Highness flying into a rage out of humiliation and wanting to create trouble for him. At that time, this humble servant was anxious to give Fu Gongong the money to buy the oil lamps, and so I moved closer to him. But Fu Gongong was busy that day too, so he told this humble one to come to Ziwan today to wait for him. That was how the military gentleman came to see this humble servant pacing up and down by the pond. Pan Rugui said, did you hear it correctly? That it was Your Highness and not someone else. Ji Gang kowtowed repeatedly and said, I dare not deceive His Majesty. Many people saw this humble servant in the market that day. All you have to do is to ask around to know that this humble one isn't lying. Emperor Xian said nothing for a long time. The smell of medicine in the room was heavy. The Empress Dowager covered her nose and mouth with her handkerchief and leaned over to say to Emperor Xian, Your Majesty, whether or not Xiao Fusui's death was premeditated or not, you can't just listen to Xiao Qiye's side of the story. The case happened just a few steps away from Your Majesty. If it was Prince Chu who wanted Xiao Fusui's life like this person said, then why would Xiao Qiye quibble about it to such an extent? Your Majesty. Pan Rugui said softly as well, Xiao Fusui's life is insignificant. Never mind if Prince Chu killed him because of personal grudges. But I'm afraid things are not that simple. His Majesty hardly steps out of the palace, while Xiao Fusui frequently did so. Why didn't Prince Chu choose some other day? Why did it have to be today? Emperor Xian suddenly broke out in a violent coughing fit again. He pushed aside Pan Rugui's hand and used his own handkerchief to wipe away the blood stains. Without looking at anyone, he said, Ji Anheng is my own brother. I understand his temperament best. Since this case is already at this stage, then let Ji Lei settle it. This all happened because Xiao Fusui used his own position to lord it over others and overstepped his boundaries when it came to the rules of propriety, thereby causing resentment and envy among others. Punish Xiao Qiye by grounding him in his residence for half a month, and punish Ji Lei and Shi Guan by docking their salaries for 3 months. Pan Rugui, go relay the message. Once you are done, dismiss them. This, Pan Rugui looked at the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager said nothing. Thus, Emperor Xian looked at the Empress Dowager and said earnestly, Imperial Mother, we are currently in troubled times. Autumn is approaching, and the frontier is in a precarious position. Trade conflicts at the frontier are increasing day after day. Liege, Qidong, and the Bianjun Commandery all need to stabilize and maintain the soldiers' morale. If we pursue this matter and it ends up implicating too many people and causing casualties at the frontier, then the ones to suffer will be the common people. Although the pain of Zongbo has passed, its humiliation has yet to be avenged. Imperial Mother, it's not advisable to drag this matter on for too long, lest we lose the faith of the commoners. Expressing concern, the Empress Dowager tucked in the quilt for Emperor Xian and said, "It's truly a blessing for the Empire that His Majesty is still worrying about state affairs when His Majesty has yet to recover." Pan Rugui, go on. Pan Rugui acknowledged her orders and gingerly retreated out of the door. The Empress Dowager continued. "The way I see it, this eighth son of the Shen clan truly wants to repent and mend his ways. He is completely different from Shen Wei. He is a child you can use." Emperor Xian said, "His health isn't good. I'm afraid he's unable to take on any duties. Maybe it'd be better for him to remain in the temple for recuperation." However, the Empress Dowager slowly put her hand down and said, "What His Majesty has said is logical, but he is already out. If we send him back again for no reason, it will inevitably arouse suspicions about the case. Isn't that contrary to what His Majesty wants?" Emperor Xian smiled and turned to Shen Zechuan. He said, "The Empress Dowager likes and thinks highly of you. You must keep this in mind in the future. Don't go down the same path that disloyal and unfilial father of yours did. Zhen will send you to the Jinyi Way then. The 12 offices have varying degrees of duties. There will naturally be something there that you can do." Shen Zechuan prostrated himself and kowtowed to thank the emperor for his benevolence. After all the others had left, Emperor Xian leaned over the edge of the bed and vomited out all the medicine he had drunk earlier. The quilt covering his hand had been wrung until it was all creased. Under the dim light of the candles in the room, Emperor Xian's face was ashen. His illness was evidently already at the critical stage. With Pan Rugui supporting her, the Empress Dowager walked along the water veranda. Hua Xianji held the newly picked lotus in her hands and followed behind them at a distance together with the other maidservants in attendance. Since his last bout of illness, His Majesty has been acting more and more arbitrarily. The Empress Dowager strolled and said, "How can a critically ill person work so hard for the state? As they say, illness comes like an avalanche." Pan Rugui said, "His Majesty is getting anxious. Back then, when I chose Jianyuan, it was because I valued his gentle and refined ways, as well as his deference and submissiveness. Although he has been ill over the years, he could be said to have done his best." The Empress Dowager looked at Pan Rugui and said, "But who would have anticipated that he would be so fearful of the Xiao clan? Every time he has to make a choice, he would always prefer not to offend anyone. But how in the world would things always go the way he wishes it to be? When all is said and done, your orders are the ones we obey when it comes to the matters in the Chu capital." Pan Rugui said, "Wait for a few more days for the Imperial concubine Wei to get pregnant with a son, then your Majesty will no longer need to worry." The Empress Dowager turned her hand over and patted Pan Rugui on the arm. She said meaningfully, "Before Imperial concubine Wei is with child, we'll still need you to keep watching over His Majesty's health." "Ever since receiving your Majesty's order," Pan Rugui responded, "this slave has been paying attention." The people outside had already more or less dispersed by the time Shen Zechuan came out. He walked with Ji Gang in a single file down the stairs and saw Xiao Qiye leaving on his horse. Wasn't the Imperial army written off? Looking at Xiao Qiye's waist and legs, Shen Zechuan said, "But from all appearances, he clearly has not fallen behind on his martial arts. An expert in horseback archery." Ji Gang squinted his eyes and sized him up for a moment. "But without exchanging blows with him, I won't know the extent of this lad's strength. If he could already draw the great bow of heaven 5 years ago, then I'm afraid he's even stronger now." Chew on air, don't engage him in a fight unless it's absolutely necessary. Shen Zechuan did not answer. But he was taken by surprise when the man who was about to turn the corner suddenly reined in his horse and turned back to charge straight at him. Shen Zechuan looked at Xiao Qiye without dodging or giving way. When Xiao Qiye's horse was right before him, it suddenly brushed past him. Shen Zechuan's sleeves and robe went fluttering from the gush of wind, falling back down after a moment. What does this case have to do with you? Xiao Qiye's horse circled around Shen Zechuan. It has nothing to do with me. Shen Zechuan smiled at him again. But it has a great deal to do with the second young master Xiao. Pan Rugui lost his lapdog and I took a tumble. No one benefits from it today, and yet you get to reap from it. Xiao Qiye leaned over from his horse and looked at him. How does someone who is so tenacious still get to be so lucky? It's all by virtue of the second young master Xiao's noble aura. Shen Zechuan also looked at him and said with humility, if it weren't for the move the second young master Xiao made, then how would I have made it out? Xiao Qiye's eyes were cold as he said, you are well informed. Just a cheap little trick. Shen Zechuan said. Xiao Qiye looked at the sky. The gerfalcon had caught a sparrow back and was hovering in the air to seek its reward. There's no harm in letting you out. Xiao Qiye whistled and the gerfalcon immediately landed on the tile. It stepped on the sparrow and tore it apart. He looked at Shen Zechuan again. The Chu capital is so big. One has to find entertainment somehow. A noble is truly a noble. Shen Zechuan said. Even the entertainment you seek differs from others. Dining, wining, whoring, and gambling are all beneath your notice. You just had to have your fun messing with people. However, having fun alone isn't as good as having fun together. How boring would it be if I'm the only one accompanying you? Look at you. Xiao Qiye grasped the horsewhip and lifted the corners of his mouth. You are such a delight. Why would I want others to come in between us? Shen Zechuan said, that would be too much for me to bear. I have even found so many friends for the second young master Xiao. Better worry about yourself than worry about me. Xiao Qiye retracted his gaze. There are good career prospects in the Jinyi way, and Ji Lei thinks so highly of you. I'm sure he will be looking forward to your presence. Shen Zechuan chuckled aloud. He looked at Xiao Qiye with smiling eyes and said in a gentle tone, you and I are but birds in a cage. I may have good future prospects, but aren't you having it easy, too? I have no worries and concerns. Being all alone, I'm free from constraints. But second young master Xiao, can you do the same? Against the backdrop of hanging lanterns on both sides, Shen Zechuan looked to be even prettier, like that of jade. The gerfalcon finished feeding on flesh and blood and landed back onto Xiao Qiye's shoulder. Since we are all caged birds, Xiao Qiye flicked away the dust on the gerfalcon's feathers. Then why pretend to be carefree? Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Shen Zechuan returned to the temple that night. Once he took his medicine, he sat across Grand Tutor Qi in the courtyard with a small table between them. Ji Gang had built a small courtyard in the Temple of Penitence and acceded to Grand Tutor Qi's request to plant some bamboo and set up a vegetable garden. It was truly a refreshing experience to be sitting outside on a summer night. His Majesty has no wish to pursue the matter. Shi Zechuan said, just so he could protect Prince Chu. That was why he allowed me out. Teacher truly has incredible foresight. Incredible or not, it's still too early to come to a verdict yet. Grand Tutor Qi tapped the wiki stone on the table and clicked his tongue. He said, last time, they said that His Majesty had been so sick since the beginning of the year that he could not get up. He is now in the prime of his life and there is the Imperial Academy of Medicine to take care of him. And yet he is even weaker now than he was in his former residence. It may well be said that Pan Rugui deserves the credit for this. Ji Gang squatted at the entrance grinding a stone as he spoke, his fury was most likely directed at them. Even Ji Lei was punished with them. Obviously, he has been harboring hatred against them for a long time. If one feels that time is running out for him, then he will grow bolder. Grand Tutor Qi said, all along, he has been an emperor who spends his entire life making concessions for the sake of everyone else's interest. The Empress Dowager doesn't like Prince Chu, but there is only Prince Chu left to ascend to the throne. Today, Ji Lei kept incriminating Prince Chu. If this was because Pan Rugui put him up to it, the bitterness of the medicine lingered in Shen Zechuan's mouth. He scrunched up his forehead and said, then, I'd believe it. Since Pan Rugui has the intent to send Prince Chu to his doom, it must be because he no longer has any concerns about future consequences. There must be another heir in the palace. One who is far easier to manipulate than Prince Chu. Was the former emperor exercising self-restraint? Ji Gang blew away the dust and said, I seriously doubt that. Furthermore, if there is really an heir, how would they have been able to hide him all these years? As long as the Li blood runs in him, he's the imperial heir. Grand Tutor Qi knocked the Wiki stone and said, the former emperor might not have one, but can't the current one beget another? Once his harem gives birth to an heir and he breathes his last, then the Empress Dowager will be able to carry the baby in her arms to hold court and administer affairs of the state without even hanging up the bead curtain. When the time comes, they can appoint Hua Saiqian as the minister in custody of the infant. By then, the great Zhou will truly take on the surname Hua. But Xiao Qiye is on good terms with Prince Chu, and the Xiao clan has everything to gain and nothing to lose if Prince Chu ascends to the throne. Shen Zechuan stroked his wiki piece. Liege will not simply sit idle and do nothing. As long as Prince Chu is still alive, Xiao Jiming and Lu Guangbei from the Bianjun Commandery can command their troops to storm the Chu capital. How could the 8 great training divisions afford to fight this battle? Grand Tutor Qi pressed down on the small table with his elbows and scratched his messy hair. He said, Lanzhou, how muddle-headed are you? Do you think that the Empress Dowager wouldn't have thought of that? Then what would they want Xiao Qiye 5 years ago for? With Xiao Qiye in their hands, Xiao Jiming would not dare to make a rash move. The Chu capital's 8 training divisions can't win if they go up against Liege's armored cavalry, but what about Qidong's garrison troops? There is no reason for the Qi clan to get involved in this fight. Just for the sake of the words loyalty to the sovereign, Qi Zuyan would still have to deploy the troops to stop Xiao Jiming. Seeing Shen Zechuan contemplating it in silence, Ji Gang said, isn't the current emperor still alive? So why worry about it? What's more crucial is tomorrow. Tomorrow, Chu on air will join the Jinyi Wei, right under Ji Lei's command. I'm worried. That's why I said I didn't have incredible foresight. Grand Tutor Qi said irritably. His Majesty assigned Lanzhou to the Jinyi Wei to achieve his own purpose and to acquiesce to Her Majesty's wish. But does he really not remember who was the one who interrogated Lanzhou in the Imperial prison? What do you think he's planning by having adversaries come face to face with one another? There's still something I want to ask you, Ji Gang. When you found Xiao Fusui today, was he really still breathing? Ji Gang wiped the stone with his fingertip. After a moment of silence, he said, it's hard to say. The timing was too tight for me to carefully check him. That's right. Grand Mentor Qi looked at Shen Zechuan. Think about it carefully. If Xiao Fusui was already dead before we could lay our hands on him, then who did it? End chapter. Notes. Wiki is an abstract strategy board game for 2 players in which the aim is to fence off more territory than the opponent using white and black pieces. The game was invented in China more than 2,500 years ago and is believed to be the oldest board game continuously played to the present day. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 15, Oriole. The next day was the day Shen Zechuan ought to make a trip over to the Jinyi Wei office to receive his post. It coincided with the day Shi Guan's younger brother of the same parents, Shi Hongxian, hosted a banquet. He had invited all the up-and-coming scholars and promising talents in the Chu capital to have a civilized discourse at the Chaodong Tavern. Shi Hongxian was an obese man. When he sat down, someone had to attend to him at the side and fan him. He spoke as he grasped onto a bamboo fan. This year is this humble one's lucky year. Although I did not get to invite Yanqing, I managed to invite Yuan Zhou. Shuizai's Wo courtesy name Yanqing had to attend to his official duties, so he could not make it this day. The Yuan Zhou Shi Hongxian mentioned was the current Secretariat Elders, Hai Liangyi, beloved disciple Yao Wenyu. These three men could address each other with such familiarity as they were all from the 8 great clans of the Chu capital and had forged a friendship since their childhood. Just then, the bead curtain was lifted and in walked an elegant scholar as gentle and as pure as jade. He was dressed in a raven blue, wide-sleeved robe with slanting collars, along with a Zaoan bag hanging on his waist. On hearing that introduction, he merely smiled. The various Confucian scholars at the banquet rose to welcome him. For a moment, the sounds of conventional greetings being exchanged rang out. Yao Wenyu said his greeting to them one at a time. It was only after he invited everyone to take their seats that he sat down and responded, "We meet every year. How am I worthy of the 2 words, rare presence?" As humble as he was, none of those present dared to belittle him. Because Yao Wenyu was the child prodigy of the Chu capital in his early years. He composed poems at 8 years of age, then eulogies and proses at 12. He was the jade that the old master of the Yao clan held in his palms. In order not to let his talents wane, he took Hai Liangyi as his mentor. Hai Liangyi was, by nature, inflexible and stern. To this day, he only had this one student, one that he prized greatly. After the small talk, they began to discuss the current situation. Shi Hongxian waved his hand to signify to his attendant to stop fanning him and said, "There is indeed something strange going on lately in the Chu capital. I wonder if the various brothers still remember the prince of Jianxing, Shen Wei, who set himself on fire for fear of punishment 5 years ago. The vile man who colluded with the enemies and cowered without fighting." One of them seated in the row straightened up and said, "He should have been beheaded under the law. Even executing his entire clan wouldn't be too much. It is regrettable that His Majesty is so benevolent that he just had to spare the life of that last remaining member of the Shen clan. This morning, I heard that he had been released. The evidence for Shen Wei's crime is conclusive. As the son of a criminal official whose troops had suffered a defeat, how could he take up a post? How do they expect the virtuous talents from all over the country to accept this?" "Exactly," Shi Hongxian said. "How is this going to work out? There has never been such a precedent before. Most likely, it's Her Majesty who wants to protect him." Someone else said, "I have long heard that this remaining member has some relationship with the Hua clan. But how could personal relationships prevail over state laws? Isn't this a violation of the law itself?" Shi Hongxian sighed, heavy-hearted. "I'm afraid this will set a precedent that will give all the future heirs of officials guilty of crimes a loophole to exploit." This immediately stirred up the Confucian scholars. Owing to the severity of Shen Wei's crimes, they could not allow Shen Zechuan to be released. "What does Yuan Zhou think?" Yao Wenyu drank his tea and said amiably, "I haven't been in the capital for a long time, so I am not aware of the details. I'm not in the position to say a word." Shi Hongxian said in understanding, "That's right. You are often away for studies, so you aren't aware of what's happening in the Chu capital." Someone among them spoke, "All of us here are learned men who are read in the classics and literature widely. We are all men with a sense of honor and shame, and we are all well acquainted with the law. We mustn't simply sit and do nothing about tea." Shi Hongxian said, "Then, what should we do?" That person answered, "We are all students of the Imperial Academy. If the public sentiment is roused, then His Majesty would have to reconsider his decision. Why not let us return and kneel together before Mingli Hall to beseech His Majesty to retract his order and punish the remaining member of the Shen clan severely?" Sounds of assent rose among those at the banquet. Shi Hongxian clapped his hands and said in commendation, "Excellent. All of you here are indeed the pillars of the country. You will be remembered throughout the ages for this action today. This humble one is ashamed. Although I'm not a student of the Imperial Academy, I'm still willing to join all of you." The Confucian scholar who had spoken earlier said, "That wouldn't do. Brother Hongxuan's elder brother is the seal-holding commander-in-chief of the 8 great training divisions. If you get implicated in this matter, then you would only stand to lose. Gentlemen, let's us be the ones to go." As the feast came to an end, Yao Wenyu called the shopkeeper to steam some tender and palatable meat dishes. As he waited, he listened to the whisperings of the Confucian scholars who had gone downstairs. "What, Yuanzhou the unpolished jade? Isn't he just a coward? Look at him earlier. He didn't even dare to say a word. How can he be compared to Brother Hongxuan's benevolence?" Yao Wenyu sent a pine nut to his mouth and let loose a soundless laugh. However, he did not step out to contend with them. By the time he came out after his meat bun was ready, the scholars had already more or less dispersed. Shi Hongxian asked, "Yuanzhou, shall I give you a lift?" "No need, thank you." Yao Wenyu lifted the meat in his hand. "I'm heading for Shifu's residence." Both men bid each other farewell. Shi Hongxian looked at Yao Wenyu's departing back and sneered for a moment before he said, "Let's go." On the other side, Shen Zechuan had already arrived at the Jin Yui's courtyard. He strode across the threshold and earned himself the gaze from everyone all around. The entire compound of hurrying and bustling Jin Yui just had to catch a glimpse at him even when they were just passing by. The one leading the way was Qiang. He took Shen Zechuan to the duty records room and said, "The Jin Yui are sorted into 4 groups of men. The first group is selected from civilian households, where their sister is the female head of household who sweeps in the palace. The brother would then come to the Jin Yui and put on a temporary authority token. Although he is exempt from service, he is not paid a salary. An example of this group is Xiao. The second group are those who have received a recommendation by the serving eunuchs in the palace called conferment by eunuch's recommendation. A case in point is the commander-in-chief. The third are those born of military households, with their position being inherited. I'm a prime example of this. The fourth group are those with specialized skills and talents in different fields. These are chosen by His Majesty himself irrespective of their backgrounds. This category of men is all very formidable. You will naturally get your chance to meet them in the future." As Qiang spoke, he lifted the hanging screen and informed him, "This is the place where you need to register in the official records to receive your post." When Shen Zechuan entered, the noise in the records room came to an abrupt halt. All the Jin Yui with different attires and different authority tokens turned their heads over to look at them. A strange silence descended upon the hall. Shen Zechuan. The man sitting behind the table with his legs crossed pushed aside the book before him and looked at him. "That's you, huh?" Shen Zechuan saw him dressed in a uniform with Fiyu embroidery. Jin Yui whose ranks were not of assistant regional commander and above were not allowed to wear this attire. So, he gave a slight bow and replied, "That's me." This man's hair was hanging over his forehead and his stubble had yet to be tidied. His behavior and bearing were rather unconventional. He touched his chin and smiled. As expected of the son of a dancer courtesan. Shen Wei's extravagant spending all just to win the smile of the beauty back then had not been in vain. "Qing, give him the token." Saying so, he tossed the token on the table that had already been prepared to Qiang. Qiang caught the token and handed it to Shen Zechuan. He said, "Lanzhou, this is the judge of the Imperial prison in the Jin Yui. He made a special trip here today just to deliver the token to you. This humble servant is called Qiao Tianya." Having said that, Qiao Tianya motioned for Shen Zechuan to look at his token. Shen Zechuan turned the authority token over and looked at Qiao Tianya again. Qiao Tianya said, the domesticated elephant's office, is it? That's where you will be going. Qing will lead you there later. But first, there are some rules I have to tell you. Our Jinyi Wei tokens are as precious as the tokens from the 8 great training divisions. When you are not on duty on your days off, you have to keep it properly. You cannot lend it out to outsiders. Although everyone is assigned to duties in the 12 offices, those aren't your main job. Our job is to serve His Majesty. We do whatever His Majesty tells us to do. Other than the assignments in the 12's office, we also have to take turns to serve as eyes and ears of the state. If something major happens, such as our arrest of you 5 years ago, we will need His Majesty's Imperial edict. Only when we have the document and the special tokens for arrests in hand that we can proceed. Allocation for any missions we get will not be decided by me or the Commander-in-Chief. Instead, everyone will draw lots and let the lots decide. Ji Gang had briefed Shen Zechuan on this before. So, he nodded his head and said nothing. One last thing. Qiao Tianya stood up and looked around at everyone in the hall. Then he continued, the Jinyi Wei are all of one mind. Once you hang our authority token, you are our brother. All kinds of grudges in the past will disperse with the wind. There will be no secret attempts to frame or make a fool of our own brother. If there is and you are discovered, then all your tokens will be revoked with your name struck off, and you will all be kicked into the Imperial prison to be dealt with severely. Everyone around them turned their gazes away and focused on their own work. Satisfied with this, Qiao Tianya turned and said to Shen Zechuan, you may go. Shen Zechuan bowed in farewell and followed Ji Qing out of the door. I thought it would be an Imperial regalia post like the fan office. Ji Qing looked at Shen Zechuan and said, the domesticated elephant's office, works fine, too. I have had many conjectures, too. Shen Zechuan smiled and said, but I never thought that I'd be going to raise elephants. The domesticated steed's office is currently a good place to be posted to. The golden saddled horses are all raised on behalf of the nobles. It's easy to get a recommendation for a promotion once you have contacts with them and go on to be on familiar terms with them. As for the domesticated elephant's office, Ji Qing had an odd expression on his face. It's not really an idle job. You even have to attend morning court sessions. And those batches of elephant lords are really a pain in the ass to serve. But the Commander-in-Chief hardly goes there, so it won't be easy for him to create trouble for you. The domesticated elephant's office was close to Mingli Public Road in the Chu capital's Imperial City, which led right to Kaling River. When the weather was hot, they had to herd the elephants over to the river to drink and bathe. Not only that, during the daily morning court sessions, they also had to lead 6 elephants to stand at both sides of the Imperial stairs. If there was a major festive court meet, or a hunting extravaganza, then they had to increase the number of elephants. These elephants would not only attend morning court sessions like the morning court officials did, but they would also be dismissed from court sessions together with the morning court officials. But while the morning court officials would find it a challenge to recuperate if they were to fall ill, the elephants could, since they were just like the Jinyi Wei who took turns to be on duty. Shen Zechuan had never even raised a dog before, and now they were giving him the impossible challenge of raising elephants. All he could say to that was, life is truly unpredictable. Both men were still on their way when they heard someone running after them. Ji Qing looked back and asked, what's the matter? The Jinyi Wei who came after them looked at Shen Zechuan and said with a solemn expression, his token is being suspended. He can't take up the post today. Return to the records room quickly. Shen Zechuan asked, is there a new deployment order from the palace? There's no new order from the palace. But 3,000 students of the Imperial Academy are on hunger strike and kneeling in protest to beseech His Majesty to retract his order and to deal with the Shen clan severely. Ji Qing's countenance changed as he looked at Shen Zechuan. ******. Having been punished with house confinement, Xiao Qi lay on the couch and flipped through the storytelling script. Even when he heard Chen Yang announce Prince Chu's arrival, he could not be bothered to get up. I'm being punished with confinement. Xiao Qi ate a fruit without raising his head. So why are you swaggering in here brazenly? Liege Unhung tossed down Xiao Qi's viceroy token and said in agitation, "See Ian. Something big has happened." Xiao Qi's eyelid twitched. Liege Unhung continued, 3,000 students have kneeled to ask His Majesty to punish Shen Zechuan severely. They kneeled until it was dark and went on a hunger strike to force His Majesty to retract his orders. When His Majesty heard of this during dinner, he was so angry that he collapsed back onto the bed again. Xiao Qiye looked at that authority token and said, "Toss it out. The 8 great training divisions won't break the students up. So, they told me to deliver the token back to you. If the Imperial Army can disperse the students tonight, then your score with them will be written off." Anxiously, Liege Unhung stamped his foot and said, "The Imperial Army can't do anything else, but isn't it easy to deal with a few students who don't even have the strength to truss a chicken? It's a good thing." Xiao Qiye lifted the book to cover his face. After a moment of silence, he said through clenched teeth, "And what a fucking good thing it is." The students of the Imperial Academy were future candidates for the Imperial Court officials, and they could influence the way the wind blew amongst the local Confucian scholars. Shiguan knew that they were hot potatoes he could not lay a hand on. If Xiao Qiye really moved these 3,000 students today, then the first one to be buried under their brushes and spit in the future would be him. Where is Shen Zechuan now? Xiao Qiye suddenly sat up and asked with his hands on his knees. I heard that he went to the Jin Yiwei's records room early in the morning. Liege Unhung looked at him putting on his clothes and followed up with a question, "Where are we going?" "Are we going to look for Shen Zechuan?" Xiao Qiye went down the stairs where Chen Yang had already prepared his horse. He mounted it and spurred it on to depart. End chapter. Note 1. The titles in chapter 13, 14, 15, Little Cicada, Praying Mantis, and Oriole are from the idiom the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. That is, to covet and pursue gains before oneself without being aware of, or neglecting, a greater danger behind. 2. Feiyu, Flying Fish.